Wales, folks. Wales get a win. 29 points to 17 in Rome. Looks like no wooden spoon for Warren Gatland's men. Just watch this one here in NZ. 3:15 in the morning kickoff, so early start. We'll go through some key events and stats, and you guys can let us know your thoughts. I will endeavour to not wake up my children who are still asleep, given that it's 5:27 as I sit here recording this. But yeah, man, good crowd. Good weather. We've kind of come to expect that from the Six Nations thus far. It's been really just top notch all round, hasn't it? But I mean, in Rome, spring day, good crowd and good voice, and I think an optimistic crowd as well, based on what we've seen from Italy. The Six Nations, they've been impressive, and a little bit of frustration by the end of it, I guess. But Wales, to be honest, man, they start with a lot of possession. And I mean, Italy not doing themselves any favours. Niccolo Cannone concedes a penalty for being offside, so it's a relatively easy 3-point lead for the Welsh. Really, that's the kind of thing they want to be doing to help, just silence the crowd and get yourself some momentum when you're away from home. A lot of pressure on Wales, especially with the pretty young back line and a guy who hasn't played a heck of a lot of 10 at international level and whatnot doing the kicking. So, a good stable start from the Welsh. Brex knocking it on in his own half. Didn't do Italy any favours either. Just kind of loose passing. Not what the Italians needed. Like, the Italians needed to start with a bit of oomph, but it really wasn't there. And it kind of ends up with the Welsh first score because the Italians just spent so much time down their own end. I mean, they were just getting. I mean, the Welsh, to be fair, were getting pushed back by the Italian defenders when they had the ball in hand. But then Rees-Webb, first start for Wales in what feels like donkey's years, just puts a wee little dink over. Just finds a little bit of space. And the bounce of a rugby ball can be a brutal thing, can't it? So, I mean, Rio Dyer's chasing that ball, and he gets as kind a bounce as he's like to get. So, yeah, man, he goes over on the 9-minute mark, and suddenly Wales 10-0 up away from home, starting to look pretty comfortable. Italy's first chance came not long later, like 13 minutes. They managed to get a chance after Jenkins gave away a kind of soft penalty. So, line out move in Welsh territory. The actual play from the line out looked pretty sharp. Just that kind of last pass not sticking. And I feel like that was kind of indicative of a lot of what happened with Italy today. And that last pass. Like, the commentary team I had at one point used the word composure. And I do feel like composure was maybe a little bit lacking with the Italians today. But yeah, that last pass goes into touch. I mean, they get a 3-pointer anyway a couple of minutes later from the resulting scrum. So they at least get on the board. It's 10 points to 3. But given how dangerous they looked from that one move, obviously they would like to get a bit more from it than just the 3, especially when Wales pretty much immediately go down the other end and get 5 points. It was a little bit tit for tat. Both sides kind of kicking the ball back to each other, but then Tommaso Allan ends up knocking the ball on in his own half on a carry. Talupe Faletau just snaffles the thing, and they get it to Liam Williams, who at times can be a very elusive runner, and this was one of those times where he's just kind of bobbing and weaving and just kind of shimmies his way over the line. It's maybe the stereotypical Liam Williams try where he doesn't look like he's doing that much. He looks kind of awkward, but it's very effective. But yeah, man, misconversion, but still 15 points to 3. Good way for Wales to respond to that Italian getting 3 points on the board. Italy weren't done though, man. Like they weren't not in the game. It's a weird one because they go like 8 phases in Welsh territory, but then when Tommy Allan gets another line break later on, they just concede another penalty. Like, just kind of, I don't know, I was getting a little bit frustrated. Wales took a long shot at goal. They missed that penalty. And it looked like, though, Italy had scored a wonder try, and I feel like they were getting frustrated by the time this call was made. Like, Lamaro especially was getting frustrated with Damon Murphy, the ref. Like, it looked like a bit of a wonder try. Like, Wales, I mean, their kicking game was largely, I think, the reason they won this game, right? They were peppering, especially Bruno and especially Garbisi early on with a lot of kicks. I mean, not the biggest guys, either of those guys. They were dealing with them relatively well. But, I mean, they were kind of happy for Italy, who they know like to play the ball from their own half, to do that and then potentially knock it on, which they had done earlier. So at one point though, they did return it from their own half, the Italians, and that's what they have been like to do, all Six Nations. But then they managed to get some decent go format. Garbisi gets a big carry, gets it to Padovani. It's a big old line break, and then the final pass goes to Brex. So it looks like he's maybe scored. They have to go to the TMO to check that one, but they ruled that he's lost it over the line. They did show it a couple of times. It's like, oh, has he got a finger on it? But Joy Neville said, nah, he's definitely lost it. But then both the Italian captain Lamaro and the touch judge Dixon felt like there'd been a tackle right before Brex's score. So the tackle which came from Brex, if that had been a ruck, would have been offside. But Damon Murphy's not having a bar of it. He just says nope. So he says the advantage was over from a tackle off the ball in the build-up, and he's lost the ball, so it's just a goal line dropout. So that's one of those 50-50s that maybe doesn't go the Italians' way. So I feel like they were getting kind of frustrated. I think the frustration prior to this for the Italians is maybe largely their own making, like either knocking it on your own half or just like failing to execute on attack. But that one, I think their frustration was with the refs. Wales ended up having another long shot at goal, but ended up missing that one. So yeah, it was definitely a turning point in terms of the Italians having the momentum, though, even if they weren't getting the points. But then they were just like, the most brutal one for mine was on 32 minutes when they end up conceding a penalty try. So 2 minutes before this penalty try, it's Italian attack, it's Italian momentum, and then just a mix-up with their attacking runners. I think is it Lorenzo Cannone who kind of gets in front. It's an obstruction call, so it's a real soft one to concede on attack. Then they concede a penalty on defence from the Welsh resulting attack from that penalty. That gives Wales a chance to go even closer with a maul. The maul gets brought down right before the line. So not only is it like a try, the TMO, it's a penalty try for bringing down the maul. Lorenzo Cannone gets pinged for collapsing it. So they've gone from attacking Wales to conceding a soft penalty to conceding another penalty on defence to conceding a maul try, which is a yellow card. It's a penalty try. It's just an absolute flip on its head, man. Like, it's frustration personified, that one. So suddenly it's 22-3. And it looks like it's going to be all Wales, doesn't it? I mean, Rees Webb adds to the pain for the Italians when he gets a 50-22 not long later. But, I mean, at least Nicotera, the hooker, was able to win a penalty at the breakdown to at least kind of potentially stop a Welsh onslaught. Italy did have a more chance before half-time. They got the backs in there, but nothing was doing. And then another kind of call that the Italians will be frustrated by, but I mean, it's probably a fair call. Like, the Italians had advantage. They still were able to attack before half-time, but then they took out Liam Williams in the air, so their advantage was kind of overridden by the fact that there was some foul play. So, yeah, really frustrating half from the Italians, I would say. It's not like they weren't with chances. They had chances. But, yeah, Wales. Kicking game, pretty on point. And, yeah, Liam Williams, a bloody nice try. Bounce of a ball, goes Dyer's way. They're only one try away from a bonus point. So, half-time possession territory is pretty even. Run meters pretty even, 193 to 196. Clean breaks is 3-2. The Italians have got one more. It's pretty even. Defenders beaten is 13-9. The Italians have got a few more. But kicks from hand, it's like 21-9. So, yeah, it's the Welsh kicking game for mine, which is the difference between the two sides and maybe a little poor execution from the Italians. Second half, though, it does click for the Italians. Finally, they get they get a try. They have points on the board, but they get a try. Some nice phases. The Menoncello, who's been good all Six Nations, he gets a line break. He gets it later on to Tommy Allan, who just puts a wee little dink through for Seb Negri. And he's able to score a try. And that's while they've got Lorenzo Cannone still in the bin as well. So 22-10, starting to look a little bit healthier for the Italians. Back to being almost game on. But then, just as they're getting that momentum, Pierre Bruno, like if I thought maybe some of the 50-50s went against the Italians in the first half, Pierre Bruno, I think's a wee bit of a lucky boy. Because he fends Tom Francis pretty much straight in the throat. When I say fends, he kind of just clocks him with his forearm straight to the throat. It's a pretty brutal one. But Damon Murphy's like, that's indirect contact, that's low danger. Joy Neville, TMO, do you agree? And there's this long pause where she lines up some other footage because she is essentially saying, no, I don't agree with that. That's it's she points to the fact that no, it is direct contact. So they have another look at it, and then Damon Murphy's about to switch his call to a red card, but then Dixon talks him into a yellow by saying, "Do you think it's a strike or do you think it's a push?" And Damon Murphy goes, "Oh, it's just a push." So it was a bit of a mess, that one. It was kind of all over the shop. So it ends with a yellow card. And I'm all for a yellow card because I don't want to see the game, I don't want to see the talking point be a red card. But I mean, that one, I honestly feel like if that was a prop fending a winger, if it had been a role reversal, they wouldn't be going, it's kind of low danger. They'd be going, it's pretty bad. Cynical part of me thinks like, man, if that's Samoa up against, I don't know, Wales, maybe the Samoan guy gets red carded. I don't know. It's maybe just me being a bit cynical, but either way, Bruno's let off with a yellow, so maybe that kind of evens out Lamaro's frustration for like the Brex try not being called earlier. But either way, they almost punished as well, Wales, because Josh Adams almost went over right on that wing, which Bruno just vacated by being yellow carded, but Varney did well to stop him scoring. But still, Wales managed to get that bonus point try. Reese Webb sets up Faletau. Reese Webb was having a blinder, wasn't he? So a lot of Welsh pressure. Reese Webb with a snipe like, he can do. He's hit all the time for the Ospreys, and then he gives it to Faletau. So it's the bonus point try. It's 29-10. It's pretty much looking like game over. Maybe for Wales, you'll be a little bit frustrated you didn't get any more points, but I don't think Wales really went out to try and get that many more points from here on out. They were quite happy just to keep the Italians at bay with the boot. They're quite happy just to let them kind of run themselves into the ground. The Italians were knocking it on, so it kind of worked. Bit of handbags on 60 minutes. The Italians were certainly getting frustrated. 63 minutes, the Italian clean break from a scrum, but again, they can't finish. Seemingly a great chance, but nothing doing. Tipperick steals a line out from the Italians on 65 minutes, which looks like it's another one of those kind of blown chances for the Italians, although that ended up with a maul, and then it ended up being a maul turnover for the Italians. And it ended up being a scrum, which ended up being a try because Fusco got it to Bruno, who got it to Brex. So a great little scrum play. So that's a weird one where the Tipperick turnover actually kind of ended up being an Italian try a few phases later. But there you go. 29-17. So that's the final scoring. I mean, Italy got a chance with 15 minutes to go to chase the game. But I mean, yeah, they didn't have the composure. Like, when Gareth Thomas did a neck roll, there was scrum time for the Italians, but then like Fusco with just a bit of a bad pass to his forwards, they knock it on. Just too many handling errors from the Italians. So it's not like they didn't create chances, but yeah, Wales ultimately saw the game out pretty kind of comfortably. And like I said, there was a bit of frustration, bit of handbags. So possession finishes 55-45, territory finishes 52-48. So the Italians had a wee bit more of both, especially in that second half. Run meters is 520 for Italy, 343 for Wales. So it looks like, I'm just looking at a glance, man, Italy, a lot more running than the Welsh. But I mean, looking at the runs per carry, Wales actually have a higher meters per carry rate than the Italians because Wales had a lot fewer carries. So, like, Wales's carry was like 5.2 meters a carry, which is phenomenal. Like, 4 is good, 5.2 is massive. Like, the Italians were at 4.5, which is still pretty good. But when the Welsh did carry, it was pretty nice. But clean breaks, 10-4 to the Italians. Defenders beaten 35-13 to the Italians. So they were giving it a crack, man. They were giving it a crack from everywhere. But kicks from hand, 35-20 for the Welsh. Quite happy to ping Italy back and let them have a crack from their own half. Knock-ons 10-5. The Italians just knocking it on twice as much as the Welsh. So I think also pretty costly. Individuals, Tommy Allan at fullback, 69 run meters, 3 clean breaks, 3 defenders beaten. Nicotera makes 11 from 13 tackles. So yeah, the Italians had some good play. Would have liked to convert on a few more of those opportunities. For the Welsh, man, Owens, Jenkins, Morgan, Faletau all had 12 tackles, so good shift from some of those forwards. Liam Williams, 4 defenders beating the clean break, 81 metres. Reese Webb, couple of try assists, 950-22. Man of the match for him. And yeah, potentially a wooden spoon avoided. The Italians have got Scotland away. I think if they won that game and then the Welsh lose in their game against France, there could still potentially be a race for the spoon, but in all likelihood, Wales have avoided it with this victory here. So, yeah, first win for Gats on his return. Well done. A lot of pressure on this game, but I think they'll have at least staved off the critics for a wee while. And the Italians, once again, they showed us like some competitive action. But, yeah, just sometimes execution, composure, and whatnot letting them down. Maybe sometimes a little bit too ambitious, but certainly a fun team to watch. You guys let us know your thoughts. Gonna head off to watch La Crunch now. And yeah, I'll talk to you guys again soon. See you later.